This program is sponsored by Auckland City Council. 185. The number of ethnic groups in Auckland City. 38. The percentage of Auckland residents who were not born in New Zealand.
Yes, Ram, your impressions on the first Action Asia Business Summit?
I think there was a tremendous panel of speakers, excellent selection of topics. The kind of involvement of the audience was amazing. I think it was a fantastic show. Kudos.
What are the kind of challenges that you perceive with regards to the emergence of Asia as a business powerhouse?
Well, I think it's a reality. Emergence of Asia is something that is a given today. The question is at what speed and at what level. I think from that perspective, today India is a very attractive option for companies in New Zealand. You see, companies in New Zealand can take on the global challenge by locating, say, 30 or 40% of their production capacity for the global markets out of India or China, as the case may be. I would prefer it if it is India, obviously.
Amidst this scenario, how do you see the disparities that exist within India? I mean, do you think the benefits of that is getting percolated down to the lowest common denominator?
Today it's happening. You see, look at something like mobile phones. Today, even a street hawker, a vegetable vendor on the street, or somebody who's a tea delivery boy, he is roaming around with a mobile in his hand. So that is the impact of economic development in a sector which was so insulated from the common man. Today, look at the retail revolution. I mean, today retail products at very attractive price points are available to the common man. So the percolation effect is very important, but I'm reasonably confident that the effects of economic liberalization and economic development are indeed reaching the common masses.
What I'm trying to drive at is, it is not the gadgets that feed the population. Still, poverty is a predominantly major factor in India's emergence on a real global scale.
You see, frankly, except for economic development, with a certain amount of social equity, with a certain amount of education, with a certain amount of health assurance, there is no other option. You see, the only way to take out the 25% of population which is below the poverty line is through rapid economic progress. So the government has taken a number of initiatives, whether it be foreign direct investment into India, whether it be liberalization of policies, whether it be creation of special economic zones, or it be creating a climate where business can flourish. I think the government has done a whole lot of things.
What about providing the infrastructure for the basic amenities?
Today, like I mentioned in my speech, about $320 billion are going to be spent over the next 5 years. That's approximately $60 to $65 billion every year. That's a kind of spend which we have never done before. What we have spent in the whole of the last 5 years, we are likely to spend every year from now on for the next 5. So that will result in better airports, better railways, better ports, better roads, and it will have a tremendous impact in terms of India's economic resurgence.
Now, in terms of the percolation of the benefits to the common strata of population, I mean, how do you see the effects of it as far as the government's input is concerned?
See, the government has rationalized duty structure, has reduced customs duty, has reduced excise duty, has reduced sales tax by introduction of a VAT which is non-cascading. So in a manner of speaking, the government has taken the right kind of policy measures to put India firmly on the growth path. Imagine if manufacturing is growing at 12% each year, what does it mean? It means double the number of jobs over a period of 3 to 4 years. Or a higher level of mechanization. Greater the production, greater the GDP growth, more jobs are created in the services sector. So India, I believe, can be a manufacturing superpower and a services superpower. And India will walk on 2 legs. And that's a very important development.
How much of that is getting translated into, the inclusiveness, that is all the societies that make up the amalgamation of India?
See,
as
frankly,
one entity?
from a communal perspective, India is non-communal. I mean, when I'm recruiting somebody in India, I don't ask him, are you a Muslim or are you a Christian? And it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me which part of India he's coming from. Today, in fact, corporate India has taken a very important initiative in terms of doing certain things on its own, in terms of providing equal opportunity employment or better opportunity employment for the underprivileged, for the socially backward, for the economically backward. So we have taken a number of steps in that direction along with the government.
So it is taking everybody along.
We would like to, but given the magnitude of the problem, when you are a nation of 1.1 billion people, obviously you cannot reach everywhere all the time. So we are taking actions. Suppose tomorrow we have special economic zones. They will create huge jobs. Multinational companies will come in and put in foreign direct investment for manufacturing-led export growth, like it has happened in coastal China. That will happen in India as well. So a whole lot of action is going to be there.
Now, finally, your thoughts. What would you like the government of India to do as its part of contribution towards bettering the scenario out there as a whole?
Just three things. The government should be obsessed with economic development, not about the vote bank. If the government ensures economic development, that is the only route to lift people out of poverty. Number two, the government should create an environment where we can attract foreign direct investment, where we can invest in terms of acquiring companies abroad, and create the right stable policy framework. And third, bureaucracy and corruption, which is unfortunately one of the stigmas that is attached to India, should be weeded out.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
This program was sponsored by Auckland City Council. Number 5 out of 215. Auckland's international ranking for quality of life.